Friends Academy episode. Let's go.
Expectations, labels, caught up in silly love fables. We'll see through the illusions of love to find the treasure in being forever friends.
All right. How's everyone doing? I hope you guys are having a great night so far. It's been a good day. A good day. So as per usual, I'm going to wait so I can get some of you beautiful folks on with me tonight. Yeah. So let's wait it out. And while I'm waiting, as per usual, let me introduce myself to those who I hope are new and coming in to join me tonight. My name is Sharla Kornegay. I am the founder of Interask Coaching and Forever Friends Academy. I am also an author and a recording artist. And when I'm on the stage, I go by Sharla K. I just released my Christmas album titled Snowflakes and Gumdrops. And I'm through the roof excited. And thank you guys for those of you who have been giving me such wonderful feedback. You know, I'm so grateful, right? There's one part of being a creator where it's like, okay, you get the honor of creating something that comes from your heart and your soul and being able to put that out into the universe. And then there's the other part when you put it out and it's received, and those who take the time that they don't have to take to tell me how much they appreciate it, how much they like it, how much it's making them rock, back and forth, bounce, whatever it is that you told me. I am super duper grateful for the whole process, to go to the process of being able to hear something, lyrics to create, then to create a melody and put it out into the world and have people celebrate it is a joy for me. So thank you. That is my gift from you guys this Christmas season. So I appreciate you. And welcome the Real Conscience and Rafi and Justin Rojas. Those last two people, Rafaela Knight of SBK Studios. She is the one who was the photographer for my cover art, and I have gotten so much great feedback on that picture. So I wanted to give her flowers and shout her out. She not only did the photography, but she also designed the whole album, the single, album cover. So absolutely love you. Thank you. And of course, Justin is the producer of It's You on Christmas, which is such a feel-good vibe. And everybody seems to love that song. So thank you guys for popping in with me. So I've introduced myself for the newcomers. Hopefully there are some newcomers tonight, because I would love to meet you to join tonight's episode. So to kick it off, as you guys know, one of my superpowers is asking great questions that help people to kind of reflect, touch people's soul. So I'm going to start off the podcast and this night's episode with a question, like I usually do, before we get into tonight's topic. So the question of tonight is, right, I can't believe it, we're almost in 2024, which is crazy to me. Does anybody feel like this year just went like in a flash? That's how I feel. I feel like this, I blinked, it was 2023, and then I blinked again, and now we're going into 2024. So that's how I feel. But let me ask you the question. The question is, as you think about this year and it's about to close, can you give me one word that would express what this year was like for you? Give me one word that can express what this year was like for you as you're reflecting, and we're about to enter into a new year. Give me one word. I know that's kind of hard, right, Charlotte? One word. Can I get a sentence, a phrase? I mean, I might let you pass with like a phrase, but I really would like for you to put it in one word if you could. So that's tonight's question, folks. Give me one word when you think about this year, all that you've done, all that you've experienced. What is the one word that surmises it all? So that's the question, folks. Think about it. Think about it. Hey, Divine, how are you? No problem. I know. You better not stay on here. That's right. Enjoy. Thank you for popping in. Please give my love and kisses to Andrew and the whole family. Love you guys. Enjoy. Soak up some sun from me, okay? Soak up some sun from me. I wish I was in some sunshine. All right, so that's the question for tonight, folks. When you think about this year, all that you've done, all that you've experienced, people that you've met, what would be the one word that you feel encompasses it all? All right, so ponder on that. I'm going to give you, hey, oh my goodness, how are you, sweetie? I so miss you. You know, we used to be on here like late night conversation. So I'm so happy to see you, Izzy. Thank you for popping in. All right, so that's a question. While I'm waiting for your answers, and hopefully you're thinking and typing, I'm going to give you my answer because I thought about it, and hopefully it won't change. I'll give you what I have right now. So as I was thinking about this year, the word that came to my mind was renewing. This year was renewing for me. And the reason why I say that is because this year I had taken a pause. Well, I guess last year. Let me not say this year. Last year, as you guys know, of those who have been or were coming on with me when I was going live and I was doing the podcast and things like that, I took a break. And then this year, I started my coaching back up again. Both of my coaching, my private coaching and my group coaching. But I feel like when I started it, I did it differently. I did it in different ways. So I started the Forever Friends Academy to do group coaching so that I can reach more people. And my private coaching, you know, I initiated new things. So I feel like it was renewing. This year for me was renewing. And also even in the music that I released, like this album that I released, I feel like it just has different and new energy. And well, first of all, I always love constructing a whole piece of art that I can kind of bring you into my whole world and space. And I love putting out the singles, but it doesn't offer that. You know, it's just like one song. And of course, you can, you know, hear it and see how it makes you feel in that way. But with the album, I feel like I got to create an atmosphere and an environment and a holistic vision. So I was very happy about that because that definitely was one of my goals was, okay, I need to go back to making, you know, the full albums, which that's not even the full album that I really want to put out. It's the Christmas album, but of course I want a full length with a lot of songs to give you guys. So that was my year. I feel like the things that I was born to do and purpose to do, I was gifted an opportunity to do them again, but do them in a higher elevated way. So that's my word. Was it's been a renewing year for me. It's been a renewing year for me. So hopefully you guys are thinking about it. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you want to share, of course, you don't have to. And of course, anybody who's catching the recap, feel free to flood my feed and put in the comments what your word is or your phrase for how you've experienced this year as it is closing. I cannot believe it. While I wait for you guys, I'm just going to do a quick recap review on some of the things that we've been talking about. So I have stated before that my approach in coaching is really simple. It's two ways that I can explain it. One, there are fundamental principles that we can found and ground our relationships on so that when the tests of time and change and challenges of life come into play, you guys can stay holding each other's hands, steadfast and not moved. The storm will go around you, but it will not hit you. All right. And those fundamental principles will also allow you guys to not become enemies to each other, but also, you know, fight as a team, which that's what you are. You're a team. And then second is, let's weed out all the lazy loving, right? We can get lazy when it comes to whether it's pursuing our own dreams. Love is at the center and core of everything we do here. It really is. Even if you hear things on the news, even if you experience, of course, the ups and downs of life, love is at the center of it all. And so, one main thing that I like to do is to be able to identify whether it's an individual that I'm coaching or whether it's a couple, is to be able to identify what the relationship needs are and how we can fulfill those. And usually when we strip back the layers, we start to at the space of, okay, where have we become lazy in the way that we have either approach understanding love and then offering it to each other. So that's my two approaches as a coach. And so one of the things that in our first introduction in my first video was, how can we counteract lazy loving in the relationship? Well, we can cherish. We can cherish each other. Ask the question, if you know, have done all that you needed to do here and you got your angel wings and you got to have the blessing and the grace to see people who you have impacted through your life and see how they're remembering you and your existence. Would you like to be remembered as someone who was loved, someone who was cherished, someone who was honored, somebody who was respected? And we talked about how cherish is a elevated form, right, of an expression of love. You can love someone who you don't cherish. You can love them from a distance, but it's harder to cherish something that does not give you some kind of connected feeling to love, right? Even if you don't love the item or the thing, you might love an aspect of the process of maybe how you received it, because maybe it was someone who you had great admiration and love for. So one of the ways we can combat getting into a condition of lazy loving in our relationship that breaks down everything else in the relationship is that we keep at the center of our relationship cherishing one another. If you are single, this still applies. Cherishing the opportunities that you get in life to pour out yourself into the world and not doubt yourself, and do it scared, even if you feel like you are not the most qualified. Still do it, because your life is a gift and you should honor it and you should cherish it. And if we navigate the process putting cherish at the center or at the forefront, then it will have a ripple effect to where honor will come into play, respect will come into play, and love will come into play. So that's first things first. And then our last conversation was on expectations, which I'm continuing that conversation tonight because I definitely wanted to bring more clarity. In our conversation, we were talking about where the question that I asked was, what is the greatest reason you should have expectations in your relationships? And what is the result it's provided you? And what is the greatest reason you should not have expectations in your relationship? And what is the greatest result it's provided you? And in the end of the conversation, I basically summarized it saying that it is best to not have expectations in your relationships. And the greatest reasoning as to why you shouldn't is so that you can leave God all the room to surprise you and go way above and beyond your expectation. Because no matter how brilliant you are, our mind is limited in capacity, right, in comparison to the unlimited, infinite wisdom of God. And if you can prioritize that and put that in that one level of relationship between you and God, you and the Creator, then that will overflow in the relationships that you have, whether it's your relationship with your spouse, your husband, your wife, or relationship, friendship that you're developing. If you leave that space, then it also leaves space for them to go beyond your expectations, to surprise you. I know for me, it's great when I am pleasantly surprised, when I get something that I wasn't expecting and it blows my mind. So that's one of the main reasons. I would think number one. And what I wanted to talk about tonight is, of course, it's hard. It's hard not going into a relationship, not having expectations. For many people, and even someone who was on that live with me said, when you have expectations, maybe one of the greatest reasons to have it is that it helps you to identify, right, what your needs are, what you want. And I understood what they're saying, and a lot of us do approach developing our relationships in that way. But there are other ways that are not going to have you carry disappointment to be able to do that. And the reason I say that is because I expressed a quote on the last session that my husband has said before that I absolutely love. He said that when you have expectations in relationships, you are carrying disappointment unborn. And I'll say that again because I think it's so powerful. When you have expectations in relationships, you are carrying disappointment unborn. And it's so true because even when I think about certain expectations that I put on myself, right? You know, anybody who maybe mothers who are out there who have children and or what you think it looks like to enter into motherhood or to be a wife or to be a husband, I think we just within our own selves put so much pressure on what it is, or even for me, right, what it means to be a good vocalist or a good songwriter. There's so many ways that we can add pressure to ourselves that will prohibit us from moving forward and making progress, whether it's in our purpose or whether it's in the development of our relationship or the sustaining of a marriage. And so when we have those expectations, there's been so many times that I have not even met my own expectations that I put on myself. And so I always remind myself that when, you know, there's a voice or there's some kind of, you know, inkling in my mind to want to put certain expectations on my husband and feel bad when I don't feel like he meets the mark in the way that I want. I have to remind myself, like, how many times, Sharla, have you placed expectations on yourself and you didn't meet them? So this is all around, right? It's all around that it can help all of the other areas of your life, not just specifically relationships. And that's one of the things that you can get from me that you might not find from somebody else, is that the principles, and that's why they're fundamental, because they can be applied in many different areas of life. And for the areas that are so monumental, that really change the trajectory of our life, such as picking a life partner, or such as figuring out the process of what it is that you're born to do here and pouring out your purpose into others, you want to navigate that process or enjoy and delight in discovering what that is, putting some foundational tools that are not gonna, they can't easily be wavered. They really can't be wavered at all. Unshakable truths and principles is what you want to put there. So let's talk about what we can put in place of having expectations, right? Sharla, if I can't have expectations, what should I put in the place of that? Because someone hearing what I'm saying right now might say, okay, that seems like I'm going to lack motivation. I'm not going to be able to make goals or pursue my dreams and things like that. And that's not what I'm saying at all. So I want to introduce some things that are give you a, I'll say it this way, give you a better advantage in being able to learn another individual, as well as learn who you are and be able to, you know, navigate and find out what your skill sets and talents are and boldly go out into the world and do what you need to do. So first of all, instead of having expectations, we can do two things that are really, really powerful. I'm going to say three things because I'm going to put these three things together. The first thing, hey, MF stars. And Justin says, facts. That's very true. Thank you. Okay, he said he's working on beats. All right, I'm excited about that. So the first thing is, it's you can put them like as a group. We can listen, we can observe, and we can ask questions. Right? Sometimes the expectations, and I was just talking to someone when I was telling them what I was talking about on my last session. I said, sometimes when we think of expectations, you know, you want to think of it as someone's putting a a high positive expectation for someone to do something for them or conduct themselves in a certain way in the relationship. But a lot of times, if we truly assess our minds and our thought process, sometimes those expectations are really low. Sometimes those expectations come in as judgment that whether we put on ourselves or whether we put on someone else, right? Where we just kind of lock them into a certain mind state or condition. So sometimes expectations are not necessarily that you're putting something that is like a high standard on someone. Sometimes expectations are actually very low expectations, whether it be of yourself or an expectation that you're placing on someone else. So instead of doing that, the reason why I say observe, listen, and ask questions, because that is honestly a part of the natural process of learning yourself as well as learning another individual. I don't have to expect anything from you because I am going to, do what is natural, a part of engagement in learning someone, which is to be vigilant, to observe how they are, to listen to the things that they say, what they introduce to me, what matters to them in life, how they express or convey their character to me, whether it be vocally or whether it be through their physical actions or their disposition. And of course, ask questions when certain things come up in the relationship. Those are, right, a combination of three things that we can do that where we won't have to expect. And I said in the last video that I did that when I was thinking about introducing this to you guys and talking about this topic, that it came to me that if you don't have to expect when you know, right? Like just imagine saying this on your tongue. Say, I expect my husband to love me, or I know my husband loves me, or I expect my wife to love me. No, I know, my wife loves me. There's a difference there, right? When you have a deep sense of knowing, and I remember this is a topic I talk about often because it is something that is and can be a great stumbling block in the progression of relationships. And sometimes people don't even know that they do have these expectations that are blocking the natural growth of the relationship until you give them some time to kind of think about and assess and look within. But I remember I was on one of my older podcasts and someone said, well, we're supposed to have expectations of God. I expect from my creator because he's a giver of gifts and et cetera, et cetera. And I told her, I said, I don't expect from God. I know who God is. Like I know who he is because he has introduced himself into my life in such an undeniable way. And that transformation that has occurred in me is so real and abounding that I don't have to expect from him. Now, does that mean that you don't pray, or that you don't present certain things to God in his throne? Absolutely. You do that, but you do that with a knowing, not with necessarily an expectation, if that makes any sense. And I know because a lot of times we use those things interchangeably, but it's a different thing when, and let me see, maybe I can use this example because I don't want to confuse you guys. I have often said, and you guys have heard me say many times before, that my husband and I, we started off in what I call our forever friendship at a very, very young time. Hey, I know it's been a while, MF Stars. Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate. He said nothing but the truth spoken tonight. Expect from God is wild. Exactly. Yeah. So I'll use this example, and I've told people, and I'm grateful to have experienced this in my lifetime. And so I've said to many of my friends and people who I have talked to casually about the concept of relationships. And so I've told them that for me, my husband, my friend, the person who is like the safest place on this planet. For me, he has loved me so much that he's given me enough for this lifetime and many lifetimes after. And even if there was a breaking or something to happen, the reality and the depth of the love, it's too set in stone. Like if we were to walk away and have other people in our life, them other people would would most definitely sense like, okay, he probably definitely think about her. She probably definitely think about him, because there's a knowing, like I know to the depth of my core that this man, he loves me with every fiber of his being, right? He can look at me and I can know that, right? So in that same way, I think there is, when we take and we remove expectation out of it, whether it's between your relationship between you and God or the relationship that you have. I'm sorry. Oh no, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I have to remind myself to log out to take my time off of not Facebook, of IG, because it always, guys, I know it was getting good at me explaining it, but I feel bad that I kind of left them out here. It kind of kicked me out because I always put a timer on social media because I don't want to be on there for the rest of my life. I got other things to do, right? So as I was stating, whether it's between your relationship between you and your creator, removing expectations out of the way, or to your partner, it is helpful because once you remove the expectation, then you provide a space and opportunity to really go through the process of what it's like to get to know someone and get to a process of a deep sense of knowing them, right? If you put your expectation on how you feel that person should be or how they are, what happens is we go through life, and life brings challenges and changes. And I remember when I was younger, I was so immature because I used to always say, like, whoever I meet, they better not change. However they are, they better stay that way, because the moment I see an inkling of change, I'm out of here. I'm out. Out like Flash. But as I got older, of course, I realized that's so immature, and it was such an illusion of love, such not the truth, right? In the process of how we naturally grow, we are going to change and we are going to elevate. And if you are in a relationship where it's growing from a friendship into maybe something more committed or elevated into a marriage, you're going to experience so many different spurts of growth in the relationship that person is not going to stay the same, right? So if you have a certain expectation that you've attached to this individual when you first go into the relationship, now when all of those natural changes occur, and that expectation you've married to, set in stone, like 10 commandments, right? That expectation that you have of that person, along with yourself and how you engage with them, if you're too tightly married to that, then you cannot, right, relearn. You cannot enjoy the experience of having openness to be able to experience the person that you thought you knew for all of these years in new ways, right? That keeps the relationship enthusiastic or fresh or passionate. We have to leave space for that. And one of the ways that we do that is to relinquish the expectation and allow space to listen, to observe, to ask questions, right? So that's the three. That's the three that you can group. And then another one that I was thinking about is just, you would get further in a relationship, and some people don't necessarily, might not want to receive a message of someone saying don't have expectations in relationships, because they feel like if they don't do that, then how do I set my boundaries in this relationship, right? How do I know or how do I set up a process or a system to where I can weed out those people who are going to be wasting my time and my energy and not really necessarily right committed to grow with me. And I always say to someone who might be thinking that way that you will grow out of a relationship that is not for you faster with acceptance more than with proceeding with your expectation, right? So acceptance is a part of the process that we were just talking about, listening, observing, and asking questions. When you accept somebody for who they are, and I've said it many, many times before, and I'll say it and I'll continue to say it again and again and again, a relationship, when you meet a person, it's a as is situation. You know how you go to those you go to those automobile shops and it might not be, a large chain, like a Ford or Hyundai or Honda. It's not a well-known, you know, automobile maker, and it might be a dealership that has a variety of different types and models of cars. And you can go in and sometimes you have the sign where it says as is. Like, if you buy this car, it's as is. Like, if you when you write it off that lot, that's it. Like, whatever it is that you got, that's what it is. Don't come back if you feel like, oh, this is what's wrong with it and this is what's wrong with it and I need you to do. No, it's an as is sale. And relationships are very much like that. It is an as is type of process, right? Because we know that we don't want to go into a relationship thinking that we can change someone, because we don't have the power to do that. Any change that occurs in someone is due to their own, right? Their own commitment to their own morals, to their own values, to their own growth, to their own discipline. You can inspire, right? Or you can motivate someone, but you're doing that it should be out of the process of your own natural growth and your own commitment to your own values. So it's not placing it on someone. It's not using manipulation or manipulative tactics to say, I'm going to do this and this is what now I expect from you. No, it's just your natural way that you are, and your nature and your character will inspire someone else who is also seeking that same type of process and that of growth and understanding, will want to walk with you because they're inspired to. So even if you're in a toxic situation, there is no rehabilitation, there is no recovery, right, from toxic things without full acceptance first of what you're in, the stage or the condition that you're in. The acceptance has to come first, and then it will leave room for healing or recovery. So the acceptance of something will allow you to grow out of something that you're not supposed to be in, or the acceptance of something will allow you to receive from others who maybe who are around you, who can pour into you and inspire you and motivate you to help facilitate your growth on higher levels. So in both of those scenarios, you will grow faster than if you have a certain expectation that you think falsely is providing you with some type of safety or guard to create a boundary for yourself, or for someone else for that matter, right? So far, what can we do instead of having expectations in our relationships? That is most definitely going to be the quickest route to experiencing disappointment, because we're literally carrying unborn disappointment when we do that. First things first is that we can listen, we can observe, we can ask questions. Second is that we can have full acceptance of the person, of who they have shown you to be. You don't want to block that. And sometimes we can have expectations, whether it's a woman in a relationship who expects and have a high expectation that maybe the man will marry her, or maybe it's a man who's in a relationship who feels like he's with a woman who expects for her to do certain things, because this is what he associates being a wife or a mother is. Instead of having those things, because they can most definitely block and thwart you from actually seeing the person for who they are in their nature as is, rather than you, right? You putting your own expectation on them. So we want to acceptance, listening, observing, asking questions helps to take the blinders off of us. And sometimes when we have expectations, we're putting blinders on, right? We're putting blinders on, our heart, our eyes, and all the things that God has given us to be able to discern who we're dealing with, discern ourselves, and what is our condition and what is our state, and how are we navigating this relationship, and is it in the spirit of truth? Are we seeking the truth? Are we even accepting the truth? Or have we built our own story here? Have we built our own illusion of love that we're in a bubble and we don't want that bubble to actually, that illusion to actually, be popped and have the actual story of what it really is, or the actual process that you're in. Hey, DJ Karma and Eloise, thank you for joining me again. And let me look down. Hopefully I'm not missing anyone. I'm sorry, guys. Oh, April, hey, I did miss someone. How are you, lovely? Thank you for joining me. Hope you are, all of you guys, I hope you guys are experiencing so far a great holiday season. I know everybody doesn't celebrate the same type of holidays, but what I do like about this season, as I hope that you kind of understood or got the gist of it through anyone who has listened to my album, is just the warmth and the joy that the season brings of being with your loved ones. That's why I have songs like It's You on Christmas. That message was definitely the main message through my whole album was. And of course that can be experienced at any season, but it's very strong when you're in a certain area, whether it's a country, a certain space or community, when there are large masses of people who are feeling the same way around the same time. That's a very powerful thing, and you can kind of feel it in the air when we're going through this holiday season. So I appreciate that because that doesn't always happen, and you don't always feel high energy in that way. All right, so we've discussed so far not having expectations in relationships, and the greatest reason for you to not have expectations is so that God can wow you and go beyond your expectations, which he most definitely will. And I love the example that I gave last week, and I'll say it again because it's so it's been a game changer for me. I did the example that if you have two people who are, let's say they're just waiting out, in line, or not even in line, they're just standing next to each other, and there are gifts that are being poured out. One person, they're both holding their hands up, like when the cops stop you and they be like, freeze, hands in the air. I don't know why I use that example of cops, but anyway, however you want to envision it. If you want to envision it like worshiping God, you could do that too, right? So your hands are in the air. One person, hands are in the air, but their fists are closed. The other person, their hands are in the air and their hands, fingers wide open, right? Gifts fall down at the same time. Who's going to get the gift the fastest? It's going to be the person who does not have to let go of something before they receive something, right? Let that marinate. It's going to be the person who does not have to let go of something before they receive something new. And I said that oftentimes when we have expectations in relationships, that's what it is. It's hard to come together with another person and harmonize with them when you have you're already married to a certain expectation, so tethered tightly to it that it's very hard now to go through the process of getting to know and becoming one with another person, because the expectation, you're one with your own ideas of how the process should go or how that person should be. You want to let go of that and keep your hands open so that God can kind of guide you through the process, through your observation, through your listening, through your asking questions, through your acceptance of it all and not resisting it, hoping that your expectation will override what's naturally occurring either within you or within the other person. Right? So think of that example. That definitely helps me when I feel like there are some expectations that are rising up in myself. And for me, it's not usually, and my husband will tell you, it's not usually, placing it on him, because I'm just naturally kind of a person where I don't really place a lot of expectations on people. It's more so for me, I have to remember this message for myself when it comes to my singing, my performance, even my coaching, to not have be married to such my expectation of how I think the process should go, so that I can leave room for whatever it is, right? And however God will allow the process to unfold for me. And you will not be not protected doing that, because sometimes people, their expectations, they hold on to it so tightly because they honestly feel like it's a protection for them. Like I said, sometimes people will think that their expectations will create boundaries for other people, and it doesn't really work like that. Boundaries aren't created through expectations. And just because you state them, what your expectations are, we know that to be true. I'm sure you can talk to many other people who might have said they had expectations, might have said they had even standards that they have shifted within themselves just because they might have desired to experience or want something. The only things that hold consistency of truth, and truth that can break through certain illusions that can kind of guard your heart in the best way, are those fundamental principles and truth that God gives you and presents. Because no matter what, it will see through, right, things that are false. The truth always, right, sees through a lie or breaks through a lie. And that's why for people, when they come to me and maybe they might say, I'm having trust issues, I can't trust and things like that, I tell them, listen, anything that you think that someone is doing to maybe come against you, or if you feel like a person is not being truly who they are and you feel like they're showing you a representative, if you remain in the truth will show you who that person is. It's not so much, the truth always comes. God always provides opportunity for you to see the truth, accept the truth. The issue is that sometimes when we're in those relationships and those scenarios, is that soft whisper that we hear in our ears or our heart, or however it comes to you, we don't always listen. We don't always, right, take heed to those things. And oftentimes it's because we're married to certain other ideas of how we want this thing to pan out and how we want this thing to go. Once we can let go of that, then when the truth whispers in our hearts and tries to tell us certain things that will help us to make the most beneficial choices that will maximize our growth and help to elevate our lives, then if there's no expectation that we're kind of too tethered to, then we can kind of, move freely and be able to leave ourselves open to see how love will present itself to us today. How will we hear the truth? In what form will it come? Instead of holding on to forms that we might want to experience love through. So listen, observe, ask questions, acceptance. And I think the last one that I'll present to you guys tonight is prayer. I'll say it again, prayer, because I say often that our whole life is a prayer unto God. When I say prayer, I don't mean just like you clasping your hands. of course, you doing that is showing people do that and they pray in certain ways and in certain forms because they're showing a certain honor to God. But in all truth, your whole life is a prayer unto God, right? All of the actions that you do, each step of the way is a prayer, right? There's a difference. Like, let's say an example, someone who wants to be consistent and disciplined and change, maybe either lose weight or change the form of their body, build more muscle mass. There could be one person who is clasping their hands and they're praying, or even if they're not clasping their hands, maybe they're praying intimately in their heart for a change to occur in that area of their life. And then there might be another person who doesn't clasp their hand, and they just get up the next morning and say, okay, for these first 3 days of this week, I'm going to wake up early in the morning and I'm just going to work out for 15 minutes. And then the next week, I'm going to work out for 20 minutes and I'm going to gradually gauge and build my capacity and discipline to do this. That is a prayer. And that person will get there faster than if the person who's just, kind of in their heart praying onto God, right? To help get the energy and the wherewithal to be able to do it. And of course, that's a great prayer when you do that, because you do need to be empowered to be able to execute consistency and discipline in certain areas of your life. But we all know that the bridge is not going to be crossed until the person actually gets up and executes it and does it. And it could be in very incremental stages, but as long as there is progress, right, there will be growth and we'll be okay. And I think when it comes to our relationships, especially those intimate ones like marriage and romantic relationships, that's the type of mentality and the type of atmosphere and the type of environment that we want to create in the relationship. That, okay, as long as we're making progress, even if it's incremental in stages, that's fine. Because sometimes we'll jump the gun. We want to, just be a rocket ship and fly out of space, like maybe if you just got married and you guys are just starting out and starting your relationship and you're building, maybe one person in a relationship is like, well, I want to travel to France, or I want to do this and that, and all these different expectations that come in. And it's like, no, let's just kind of build it precept upon precept, principle upon principle, and then we'll get there. The person who I gave an example, who wants to lose the weight or change their body composition, they would be foolish to think that if they get up tomorrow or in 1 week that they're going to be able to do it. No, that you're going to have to take it step by step, and it is going to take consistency over time is what breeds discipline, and you'll see the change. So if we put that into a relationship context, then it's like, okay, I'm not going to put expectation of how I think, my husband should be. I'm going to leave all the room for him to show me how God has inspired him to love me. I'm going to give him all the room, to go beyond what I could even think that a healthy looking dynamic of a relationship is. And it doesn't mean that you're dumbing yourself down or being silly, because we are here in this episode, and if you're listening to me, you're coming to learn certain fundamental principles. So when I say that, it's doing what love does, right? Love exists inside of you. And if you partner up with someone and you feel those great feelings that love can cause, then you know that they're a reflection of God. They're just reflecting God's light and love to you. So when you allow and give space and opportunity for those people who are in your life to go beyond your expectations, that's what you're doing. You're bouncing off all the things that you know within your heart to be true, right? That stand on the truth. you're seeing them, align with that truth every step of the way, right? So then you can have a solid grounding to like, okay, wow, this person is echoing the fundamental principles of God, right? Beyond, and I've said this before too, that one of the ways that I knew my husband is a stand-up character and a stand-up person, and anybody else who I meet, who I also see this characteristic in, is that he moved beyond me seeing if he lined up with his own words, right? You know how they say your words and your actions have to align. He moved beyond that because he's not even trying to just keep his word or for his word to be born. He, for those of you, I don't know, y'all probably like, what is that? It's like an old saying that people have said. Anyway, so it just means that when a person said, let your yay be your, yay, and your nay be your nay, meaning like whatever you say, make sure you follow through. Okay, so had to explain that for a second. But he moved beyond that to now his word is aligning with God's word. He's not even trying to just line up with what he has expressed or what he thinks to be true. It's beyond that. He's trying to align with what God's word is. And I can stand on that because I know God's truth and his principles. Those are the things that are going to last. We say a lot of things and we think we know things in certain times and certain seasons, and then God comes and then refreshes our mind, renews our mind, and transforms the way that we might have thought about something, because it's a ever unfolding journey trying to strive to reach to understand truths that are like, what's the word? Just astounding, basically trying to understand love and trying to understand the essential aspects and components of life is you're taking a deep dive, and you understand it to the level of your receptivity and your capacity. And we as people, as we continue to grow, we hopefully we stretch that capacity, so then there is extra bandwidth to gain extra understanding and clarity on something that you might have thought you've known. And that is a principle that we want to keep in our relationships, because if not, we can fall into not honoring or not seeing our partner for where they are right now. You understand what I'm saying? And there's no way for us to do that towards them without doing that towards ourselves. So that means that if we're doing that to our partner, then we are also not seeing ourselves for who we are, right? Or how we've grown right now. And so that's one of the main reasons why you want to kind of put that expectation to the side, when it comes up. Put it in the back seat. That's the best way I can say. It's like, put it in the back seat. Don't let it drive. Don't make it feel more powerful than it needs to. As I often say, flirt with your emotions. Don't marry them, because your emotions are going to be fleeting from day to day. Way too fleeting to marry it. But you can flirt with it to kind of give you some understanding. So in that same way, you maybe can flirt with your expectations, but definitely don't marry them. Definitely don't marry them. They got to take a back seat, right, to you being able to go through the natural process of learning yourself and learning another individual. And we've went over those things already. Listening, observing, asking questions, acceptance of who that person is, and wanting the truth to be exposed in the relationship of where the character and the nature of that person is, as well as yourself, right? So those things, and remembering that when that prayer is more powerful than any expectation that you think that you could have come up with, and that prayer is going to be reflected in your whole, what you do throughout your whole stages in your life. Your whole life is prayer unto God. And that prayer is a lot more powerful than whatever expectations that you can come up with that are attached to previous ideas that you have. Okay, so that is today's session, folks. Today's conversation, hopefully, I pray that I articulated it in the best way, and I wanted to give you tools. I didn't want to just take away and say, don't have expectations in relationships, because you don't want to, carry unborn disappointment and not give you tools and not give you things that you can put in place of it that are more powerful tools that will give you a greater impact and greater experiences in your life. So that's what I aim to present tonight. Hopefully I hit the mark. Of course, I want to leave space for any questions that you have. And of course, if you are catching the recap, you can always still flood my feed and put your questions in the comments. Any questions that you guys give me, I will aim to answer them on any of the next episodes. So feel free to do that if you are catching the live at the end. So that's tonight's conversation. Feel free to ask any question on that, because I know I said a lot. So feel free to ask any question in regards to expectations, or feel free to ask any question that you have about relationships overall. Thank you, Justin. He says that's a very good session. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. You could be anywhere in the world, so I so appreciate that you have decided to be here with me. Your time and your energy is the most precious thing you have here. So I appreciate you. And all of those who hopped on with me: April, Divine, Izzy, Justin, Rafi. I am Wealthy. Ooh, I like that name. I am Wealthy TV. Yeah, we talk about wealth a lot here too. Holistically, what that means. So feel free, if you have any questions in regards to either today's topic or any relationship question that you have, I will try to do my best to answer it tonight. Or if I don't have the answer right away, I will let it simmer, think on it, and then come back and present it to you in one of the episodes. So I'm going to leave a moment for that while I'm waiting to see if anyone's typing, taking the time. If you're on IG, you can come on and ask a question if you don't want to type. But I want to take this moment in time to say if you are enjoying what you're hearing, and I've entered the YouTube universe for this year, right? As my one word to recap my year was renewing, and I've now entered the YouTube space, so I'm happy about that. That's something new in the way that I've been presenting my conversations around relationships and my coaching. So if you are enjoying what you're hearing so far, you can do simple things that will definitely help me out to continue doing this and offering what God has purposed me to do, which is you can like, you can comment, and you can subscribe. I would love that. Thank you very much. I appreciate it in advance, as well as if you want to join my Forever Friends Academy, where you can get one-on-one. Well, it's not one-on-one because it's group coaching, but I say one-on-one because we are able to really dive deeper than what I could present here on just an episode. So get to ask questions that are specifically tailored to maybe a process that you're going through. If you want to do that, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/sharlakornegay. If you are on YouTube, it will be in my description. If you are on IG or Facebook, you can look in my bio and the link will be there. If you want to, there are different levels of memberships that you can join. So do that if you would like to get more of this in a more concentrated way. Or if you don't want to do that and you just like what I'm doing and you want to be a source of support for me, you can also donate there, which I appreciate those who have already done so. So I don't see any questions. So I think that means that we're going to wrap it up tonight, folks. Let me give it one more minute, and to see, just to make sure I'm not missing anyone. But it's been a beautiful time as per usual, guys, and I will be back on Sunday for Scenario Sundays. Got to think up a good scenario for you guys. So All right. Well, I don't see any questions, so I absolutely enjoy spending this time with you guys. Always remember to live to love freely, and until next time.